Aston Martin shook up F1 in the Hungarian Grand Prix. They managed to find a loophole in the rules that allowed them to design a part in a way previously banned by the FIA. Almost every team on the grid said they would be copying it. Even Aston Martin admitted they expected it to get copied. Now though, the FIA have shut down Aston Martin's design, and anyone in the process of copying it is going to have wasted time and money. But what was the loophole Aston Martin found? And why has the FIA now banned it? Let's find out. Formula One's 2022 technical regulations have been described as overly prescriptive, as the rule makers look to stifle specific developments in order that their overall goals are achieved. They wanted to ensure that the sport was more competitive and that the experience of watching a race was more exciting. This meant that cars needed to be able to race closer together for longer, and to do that, the FIA needed to sort out the dirty air coming from the back of Formula One cars. The new technical regulations have achieved this, but that hasn't stopped the teams trying to find a way around the rules to make their cars as fast as possible. While the teams have largely followed the intent of the regulations, that doesn't mean an end to some innovative approaches, such as Mercedes side pods, as the creative designers flex their muscles and interpret the regulations in their own unique ways. In this respect, Aston Martin entered the conversation just ahead of the summer break, when it introduced a technically fascinating rear wing design. The new end plate design defies the intention set out in the regulations for the rolled over transition between the main plane and flaps. If you look at a 2021 F1 car rear wing, you'll see how the wing is similar to a box, with sharp right angles where the horizontal section of the wing attaches to the supports. In 2022, this was changed to be a much more rounded connection. The approach was taken for both aesthetic and aerodynamic reasons, with the design not only meant to be more appealing to the eye than the 2021 design, but it's also one of the measures meant to help reduce complexity and alter the weight profile of a lead car, in order that a trailing car may follow more closely. The new wing that Aston Martin showed at the Hungarian Grand Prix looks much closer to the 2021 wing designs than the 2022 wing designs. The inwardly rolled top edge, which looks like an apostrophe, is more about meeting the various radius and continuity rules, but has then been optimized to achieve the designer's overall targets too. Introducing such a complex design was obviously something that could not be completed overnight, with the team not only having to make the controversial wing work as anticipated, but as the team's performance director Tom McCullough explains, it had to undergo scrutiny from the FIA on numerous occasions to ensure it complied too. It took several months from the first contact to the full approval of the FIA, he said. And then, once you've got approval, we then design, manufacture it, then you submit all the designs pre-race weekend. And again, the FIA has to make sure they're still happy with it, which they did. And then you get it on the car. Obviously, to get it past the FIA during the design process, Aston Martin had to prove that they found a loophole in the rules and that they weren't just completely contravening them. Part of this process will have been proving to the FIA that the new wing didn't cause aero issues for the cars behind. McCullough confirmed that the weight characteristics of the new design were evaluated as part of the process. The FIA will have studied the team's own simulations and also has the capacity to perform its own analysis to verify any findings. But why is the design itself so desirable? Well, the whole design is about containing the high pressure on top of the wing for longer, partly by ensuring reduced transverse airflow and therefore delivering more downforce. The challenge is doing it efficiently, which Aston Martin claims to have done well enough to intend to use this geometry across its full family of rear wings, cost caps allowing. While Aston Martin's interpretation of the regulations, which is completely legal, made it possible to bring back rear wing end plates, the FIA had intended to outlaw such designs in order to minimize the turbulent airflow caused for a following car, as part of its efforts to improve the raceability of the cars. Despite the new design being legal, there was always the possibility that the FIA would tighten up the rules to prevent such designs becoming ubiquitous, because of concerns it would work against the objective of the rules to improve the racing. Allowing these end plates to be adopted and refined by all teams would compromise the weight characteristics eventually. Aston Martin Chief Technical Officer Andy Green told the media that discussions in F1's Technical Advisory Committee have led to an agreement that the design will be outlawed for 2023. We completely expect it to be banned for next year, because it's not a route that the FIA want to take, and they've told us that, Green said. We've had discussions in the Technical Advisory Committee, and everyone's agreed that we will change the regulations slightly to not allow this design in the future. So the last you will see of it will be this year. When we first saw the new cars at the first pre-season practice, Ross Brawn was surprised by how few loopholes the teams had managed to find in the rules. The Mercedes side pods were the only standout design, and remained as much until the Aston Martin wing came out in Hungary. The FIA confirmed it was an unexpected design choice, and that discussions were ongoing to adjust the regulations to prevent it from being used from 2023 onwards. The M plate design wasn't one that was anticipated for the 2022 regulations, and the FIA is currently discussing potential adjustments for 2023 with the teams, said a statement from the governing body. It's likely most, if not all teams would have adopted this design next year, at least for high downforce rear wing assemblies. But while Aston Martin can continue to use it to the end of the year, cost cap constraints means it's unlikely rivals will introduce their own version given the short shelf life. However, were any to do so, then Singapore this weekend would be the obvious time to do it. While banning a completely legal design after a team has only had the chance to use it for half a season might appear unfair, it is in keeping with the objective of the rules. Article 3.2.1 of the technical regulations refers to the objective of the regulations and the need for the FIA to ensure that the cars designed will enable cars to race closely. While this can't be used to ban a design with immediate effect, the principle exists to allow the FIA to make modifications to close off such avenues in the future. Effectively, this does constitute an intent of the regulations regulation. The reference to the intent in the regulations is in order to give a sort of moral high ground if something has gone off-piste, said the FIA head of single-seater technical matters, Nicholas Tombazis, last December. It is to be able to discuss with the FIA Commission and to say, look, that was the intent. We shouldn't forget it. We have a moral imperative to act on it. It's mainly to highlight the intention and to give us the position to discuss things openly and clearly with the teams, and then the F1 Commission if we feel that things have gone astray for some reason. Aston Martin will be looking forward to making the most of their wing for the rest of the season before it's banned in 2023. In Singapore especially, their new wing will be incredibly useful. Having high downforce at a tight and twisting circuit like at Marina Bay is incredibly useful for helping the drivers take more speed into the corner and therefore take more speed out of the corner. Even with the new wing though, Aston Martin isn't calling it a day in 2022. They've said that there is only a small team of engineers still working on the car this year, but they have still managed to squeeze out a few final upgrades. The team technical director Dan Fallows confirmed further new components will be added to the AMR22 in a bid to improve the performance of the car in what has been a tough season for the former Racing Point squad. As part of a program to reduce the weight of the car and improve the aerodynamic performance, we have some new items for Singapore, he said. Unlike last year, when revolutionary regulations were incoming for 2022, the regulations remain fundamentally static for next season, which means upgrades introduced late this year can still prove useful in the carryover to next year's design. It's about making the car faster, but it's also about next year's car, Fallows explained. It's so important to keep bringing developments to the car and not waste any opportunity to test them on track. You can have as much faith as you like in your wind tunnel and CFD tools, but the real answer is what happens on track. With a new wing ban for next year, it's vital that Aston Martin find advancements elsewhere. Fernando Alonso will also be keeping a close eye on how the team progress for the rest of the year, because come the 1st of January, he's going to be employed by the team and eager to help them reach new heights. Are you impressed by Aston Martin's innovation with their new wing? And is the FIA right to ban it for 2023? Let us know your thoughts down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.